Episode 4 of the School Transformation.
Let's make today the day that will transform your work, your health, and your life. You'll learn how at the School of Transformation. Welcome to the School of Transformation, where each week you'll gain insights from top performers and experts that will offer you their advice and strategies that can help you reach higher levels of performance. And now, your host, Bob Choat.
Welcome to the 4th episode of the School Transformation podcast. And I'm really excited to have my next guest. We've been connected actually in social media for a lot of years, and we've talked in the past. Marvin Towler, I would like to say Marvin Towler, JD, because he has a degree in law from Rutgers University. Marvin is a speaker and absolute thinker. I have to give him that. He's a self-described instigator. He's known for delivering really the perceptive insights for his clients. I would like to say he even does that when he does his presentations as well. His thing is that he believes that awareness is the key to success. His career has been in a lot of different areas, from corporate work to nonprofit work. He has a plethora of experience in a personal development industry. He's coached a lot of people regarding getting them really focused and clarified in their goals and working towards their own personal and professional success. He's a master certified success coach who's worked with some of the biggest people, even like Jack Canfield's one of those. He's Gary Keller. Marvin has been focused to be a top speaker, coach, and trainer in a personal development arena. And I know that he's going there because of not only of who he's worked with, who he's surrounded himself with, and what's in his heart. He's constantly learning. And speaking about transformation within us, Marvin has been through that arena, not only mentally, emotionally, and really important, physically. Marvin, I'm so glad to have you here.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Bob. I'm really honored to be here. And I always tell people it's great to have a bio. And if you're ever down, just have a friend, send it to a friend and say, could you introduce me? Like, I'm sure you experience when you get introduced as a speaker, like, oh my God, who's this guy who's coming up there? He sounds so amazing. Well, thank you for the really gracious introduction and asking me to be here on this wonderful project that you have created, the School of Transformation. I love transformation, so I'm real excited to be here. And
well, you're all about it.
I am. And like when you hit like your 100th episode, and I know the guests are gonna. I'm not even putting myself down, but the guests are people who are now known it's just gonna scale up, and then people like myself who you will have introduced to the world. It's just exciting. I'm excited for you because of all you're bringing forth right now. So let me just say thank you and namaste to you.
Well, thank you as well. Thank you for being here. I know that by the time I get to the 100th episode, you're going to be so known out in the world and making massive differences. People are going to say, you mean you interviewed Marvin Towler? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well, I see that, and it's not from ego. It's just like you said. It's in my heart. It's in your heart.
Yes.
I'm just here to help, and I know that if I continue to do that, it's already done because we're in a whole new paradigm of learning and understanding ourselves and education, and we get to be involved with that. It's just a wonderful thing. I'm tickled.
And speaking about personal development, because I know that you're an avid book reader, you've worked with a lot of people, you continue to learn and improve and everything. Out of all the people and everything you read, is there a certain quote that stands out to you that's maybe affected you or influenced you?
Yeah, that was very tough to come up with just one because I do read a ton. I've read, I know, a thing or two about law school. and people may know if they've ever seen the movie The Paper Chase. There's a ton of reading in law school. But I can tell you, I have read more now. I read more now in a month than I did when I was in law school. I mean, so it's very hard to come up with quotes, but it's not hard to come up with quotes, but to come up with just one. And then so I thought of it, and the one that really is the most powerful that I love, there's a number that are in the Bible that are really good, but then I thought of one. I said, what's one quote? And it is by Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of the transcendentalist thinkers. And I just think it is so succinct, and it is, do the thing and have the power. And I love that quote. And that specific part is great. But he does go further. He goes, but he who does not do the thing doesn't have the power. So whenever I'm dragging, it's just time to do the thing.
Yes, and I absolutely agree. Emerson was an amazing, amazing author in a lot of words that he said. And I think a lot of people later on took from Emerson. I remember a poem by Burton Braley. I don't know if you ever saw that poem. I think Les Brown has utilized a form of it called Success.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have the book around here somewhere. Let me see. So yeah, it's called Things as They Are.
Wow.
Yeah, this is from way back. And yeah, so a lot of people have taken from Emerson and continue to this day. And that the way you stated it, that's very powerful. Just in a sense, just do it is part of that. Do the thing.
Exactly.
Just do it is the same thing.
It's the same thing. And I have a book of his essays, and he has essays on so many things, self-reliance, all compensation. In the pregame, we were talking. So there's nothing new under the sun. And I'm a person who, I forget who said this quote because I read so much, but it's like, don't seek to be like the masters, seek what they sought.
Yes.
So the further back I can go in a reading, so I can get my own understanding and then share it, which I think is what everyone else does. Very important because of who I am, my integrity, my hierarchy of values, truth is at the top.
Yes.
Of that. I want to get to the source and then share that with people. Yeah, I love that quote. Like I said, just do it. That is exactly Nike's slogan. Is born out of that, right? So,
yes, exactly right. Yes, perfect. And speaking about, because one of the things I ask every single guest is I want to know what is their greatest transformation. And I know that you've been through a multitude of them. Then moves into why do you think you went through it? And then finally, the how. The how is in the sense that you will offer in tips, strategies, or ideas to the audience in a form of 3. Before we get started, before we move to those tips and before the why, what was your greatest transformation?
Wow. There's 2 things. 1, my greatest transformation is yet to be. And 2, my greatest transformation to date, I would say, took place in 2003, so 14 years ago. That is when I made a decision to stop drinking alcohol. I don't often talk about this story just because I just think my life is my life. It's not so much, I don't see it as an accomplishment per se or anything I do, like having a law degree. That's wonderful. And on the one level, it's an accomplishment. It's just a part of who I am. It's something that I did. It was a goal. I achieved it. Or even if it wasn't a goal, I did it.
Yes.
After having gone to law school, it was very interesting. Bob, I was an NCAA Division I athlete in track and field. So I had got a scholarship to a small Division I school in Jersey near where I grew up. I was running with them. I had a couple of injuries and things. And eventually I ended up transferring out of that school. I never really got along with the coach. I had went out drinking, interestingly enough, one night and had got into a fight because I was doing the requisitive trash talking to get into a fight. But it wasn't much of a fight because at that time I was like 5'9", but I was 5'9", probably 130, skinny runner guy. I'm not 160, 165 pound guy, middleweight boxer guy. But I was just a skinny kid, and some kid rolled me within an inch of my life, broke my nose, broke my orbit of my eye, and so I ended up transferring. Right, I will say this, that I now know everything happens for a reason, and in this every situation there's a positive. So at the time it might have seemed one way. Then I transferred to this other school, Southern Connecticut and whatever. And my girlfriend was going to school near there. End up in law school. So I stopped running. Now, you know this, Bob. Everybody needs to know that we actually don't break habits. We replace them. Again, when we talk about that ancient wisdom, we're creatures of habit. There's a reason why we have these expressions, right? Because we are creatures of habit, and our habits either build us up or tear us down. I used to have the habit of every day between 3 and 5 of going exercising and running. That became replaced by going out and drinking and socializing. And it was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Ton of fun. I have no problem with it. Went through law school, not happy because now I'm taking on this debt. Don't want to be a lawyer. Don't know what I'm going to do. And also, I went to law school full time. If you do that, or anyone who goes to graduate school full time, particularly that first year, there's often regulations in place where you're not supposed to have jobs or work. So I had more time on my hands than I knew what to do with. I became this total party guy, which was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And then eventually I got out of law school, went into the wine business, the fine and rare wine business.
Okay.
Which was a ton of fun. And that's how I ended up in California. So again, everything flows for a reason. But eventually, and actually it was March 1st of 2003, I found myself in a situation where in the month, maybe even like the year before, I knew I was drinking too much. I was really not happy at that point because everything you do, there is too much of a good thing. There is this thing called the minimum effective dose. There comes a point where if you're using drugs or alcohol, you're not getting the same effects. The destructiveness really outweighs any positives. Like I said, awareness is the key. Even inside of that, I knew I was aware that something had to change. So one night, we might get into this a little bit later, I also am a believer that we get in our life what we look for.
Yes.
What we're thinking about, the thoughts we're having. And literally, I remember I worked for the county of Santa Barbara at the time. And my friend Aaron, I was working with, he said, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, it was a Friday night. I said, "I'm going to go home, get drunk, and get into a fight with my girlfriend." And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Ended up with the police being called. And that night and I wasn't arrested that night. I was subsequently arrested later. But I remember waking up the next morning and being like, it's over. It's done. I was like, 3 times you've been involved with the police. You have been drunk. I was like, and fortunately, it was my 3rd strike for me. I was like, that's it. Yeah, I'm done. What I had to do was replace that habit. Like I said, I was an athlete. I had always wanted to study martial arts. There was an ad in the Santa Barbara Independent for this fitness kickboxing program. So I was like, okay, this could be a great segue. It was a 10-week program. And I looked at the picture, and this guy was like 40 years old. And I was like, if this guy can go from 25% to 12% body fat, I can go from wherever I am now to 6-pack abs in 10 weeks. Mm-hmm. I made that decision. And what happened was I look back now, instead of getting off work and drinking, I would get off work, and go to the dojo for my fitness kickboxing. Now, these guys had an incredible funnel, as martial arts studios do now.
Yeah.
So I came in as a kickboxer and then ended up leaving, 7, 8 years later. Black belt, you know what I mean? And becoming an instructor and a fitness instructor. That was the biggest transformation because so many people in America, in the world, struggle with addiction. Most of us, it's sugar. I fight sugar every day, lose a lot of times, but we have sugar, we have caffeine. We are a nation of addicted people. Mm-hmm. And then things like alcohol and tobacco are completely accepted. What was great when I went to that course, and it was really, I really had never thought about transformation before, Bob, but I went to that course. We had a session. There was like 30 people who were starting. We'd start in waves. We were going to be together. We were the 3rd cohort they had ever had. And they said, okay, so we want, we had this little book, and it said, we want you to write down what you want to have happen in 10 weeks. For the first time, they're like, just reckless abandon, let your imagination run wild. And I wrote down, in 10 weeks, I will have lost 20 pounds. My body fat will be between 5 and 8%. I have a 6-pack of abs that could be featured in a magazine, and I will have removed countless toxins from my body. Oh, and I was like, and quit smoking because, I started smoking. I tell people all the time, I started smoking when I was in law school. And that's another one that I learned later. You become the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes.
So if you're in the bar after class, hanging out with people who smoke, and drink every day, eventually you are going to smoke and drink every day. And that's what had happened to me. At the end of 10 weeks, I had dropped 20 pounds. I went from 170 to 150, which at that my time was like my fighting weight, my running weight. Body fat was 8%. I became the poster boy for their ad. They ran my ad for like 5 years. And then I didn't quit smoking until a few months later. But 3 out of the 4 things happened. And I'm certain it's because I wrote them down.
Yes.
Actually, I took that power that of my words and my thoughts, put it to paper, looked at it, and then took steps every day to make it happen.
So I see like with 3 things already just within that transformation. Number 1, the self-awareness you had. Number 2, writing down the end goals and then tracking backwards in that sense. And number 3, the people who you associated with. All those kind of influenced you at that point in time.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I needed a new circle of friends. I'm a friendly guy. I love people.
Yes.
I really do. And even like when I remember coming back east to where I'm from, to New Jersey to go to an event, friends were like, well, you don't drink anymore? What? We were excited you were coming. Because to them, I was just like, when Marvin was coming, it was going to be a party. It was going to be crazy, but it was going to be a ton of fun. And they're like, we didn't even think you had a problem. I said, I don't know if I do, but I know I wasn't happy. I was drinking too much. 3 times involved the police. There was alcohol involved. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it was an awareness of this isn't working for you. You nailed it. It was. I got a whole new circle and a circle of support that were about people who were going to be a stand for me forwarding my life.
Yeah, and I fully agree, because of people like you in law school who you associated with at that time influenced you. I had the same thing from when I was in the Marines, and I got in trouble on a few things, and that influenced me in some ways. Even more so when I was with the LAPD. We used to like a lot of times get off duty and we would go either to a bar or have choir practice. You ever hear of the choir boys?
No, I should.
So yeah, so Choir Boys was written. It was a book, and they made it a movie years ago. Basically, what choir boys are police officers who get off. They grab a bunch of booze. They either will be in a bar or in a parking lot, and drunks typically will sing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I knew, because the mindset that I was around, because it started affecting me, that there's only police officers and everybody else is a bad guy, even the regular public.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Yeah, it was a situation that I knew I couldn't be around anymore. So in 81, I ended up leaving. Never looked back. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think about it times, and I talk to the police officers now, and I said, I'm so glad that, who we associate with the most of the time, who's in our inner circle. Absolutely. Very powerful. So you did 3 important things there, and we'll talk about a lot of that later on.
Sure.
Why do you think that you went through it at that time? I know you touched on it. Why, whether it's mentally or emotionally or even physically, why do you think that you went through it?
I think that, we know energy is never created nor destroyed. Everything that happens to us, there's 2 things: happens through us and it happens for us. There's the concepts of karma and all this, but basically we have opportunities in life to transform. So looking back, I now believe that I went through that so I would become a better transformational leader, right? Lisa Nichols, who's a fantastic speaker, author, has been on Oprah, was in the movie The Secret, is an incredible transformational leader. She once said to me, because we're friends, met her through Jack Canfield and whatnot, but she said, you can't have a message unless you've made a mess, right?
True.
And then I walked through some fire, and I have empathy for anyone who struggles with drug and alcohol addiction. I do have empathy for them. However, I know they can do it if you really want to do it. So I think that's the piece that, while I can be empathetic, I didn't have money to go to rehab. I didn't go to rehab. You make a decision. And then you work with what you have inside of that decision. Really, it's empathy and a body, and there's a body of knowledge, right? Searching my own soul. I always used to tell people, because I haven't spoke about this in a while, I'm sure I'll be speaking about it more now, that it's called wine and spirits, right? Alcohol is called spirits. Why? Because it affects your spirit, right? It changes your state. That's why people drink and do drugs. It changes your state. So I have an understanding of that altered state, right? And how the mind works. So it's just an incredible experience to have gone through that. I'm just blessed that I was able to go through it.
Yes. It's amazing that you went through it, you came out of it, because had you stayed back then, we wouldn't have the Marvin Towler on the show and getting out there and making a difference.
Absolutely not. It's so funny because, I talked about replacing the habits. Like literally, I went from a guy who could drink, and I was that guy. I was the last man standing. I could drink 250-pound guys under the table. And that guy to ripped kickboxing instructor like in 5 months.
And that's pretty amazing. So we got through the what and a why, and let's get to the how. And I know that I touched on some of the tips that you could use. There may be others in there or things that you used as your tools and even continue to use to this day. What 3 tips, things, strategies can you suggest to the audience that you applied that they can apply into their own life?
Sure. Well, since you broke it down to 3s, I will say that the first thing I did was I made a decision. No matter what you want to have to do in life, you have to make a decision. That is the foundational first step. That is a word that I did not understand. You asked me some of my favorite books. One of my favorite books is called The Power of Decision by an author named Raymond Charles Barker. The suffix side means to kill off, right? You were a police officer. We have homicide. We have suicide. If you kill your mother, it's matricide. So side means to kill off. When you make a decision, a real decision, not a choice, not a whim, when you make a decision, you have now killed off any other options. So that's why making a real decision to achieve whatever it is, that's the starting point. It all starts with a decision. So the first thing you have to do is decide. The second thing is you want to commit that decision to paper, right? Because we are multidimensional beings, that the 3 major learning systems are auditory, visual, or kinesthetic. You make a decision, and then once you write it down, and this is where writing stuff down, I'm old school like this, where I like to write stuff. If I really want something to happen, I write it down. I use my phone to take notes or whatever. But when you really want to have something, because then what's up here is going down all through here and then up and then coming out here, and I'm writing it down, and that's putting an anchor into my neurology and into my circuitry.
Do you use a journal at all? Do you journal?
I do. It's funny you said that, because I remember going to, I think one of the first events I ever went to where Jack Canfield was, and we were doing an exercise like a guided visualization. We were visualizing where we were going to be, and might have been 10 years or whatever, X number of years or somewhere in the future. And it was like, and then getting this award, and there's people there from your family, and they're giving you gifts. And one of the gifts someone gave me was a journal. Like my daughter gave me a journal and a really nice pen, like a Mount Blanc,
yes.
Ever since that time, I was like, okay, journaling is going to be key. I have struggled with journaling. I have struggled with it, but I recently used one of the tools I have to build habits, and now I love journaling. Like I literally, through research that others have done, and then I've substantiated the research, it takes 66 days to form a habit.
Yes.
So I just finished 66 days of journaling every day, and literally I love it, because I had this notion in my head that I had to write the next great American novel, but sometimes I just doodle. I use symbols. It's just getting what's in me onto paper to spur other ideas. So absolutely, I journal, and I think I know that's why we're talking right now, because I started journaling at the beginning of the year. You completed the website, getting close to the podcast. You've issued another challenge, and it has stirred the creativeness in me.
Has journaling helped you? Because when you talk about committing the decision to paper, is journaling part of that?
Absolutely. When I first did it, one of those things where I didn't always make connection, and most of us don't always make the connections. that are right in front of our face? Yes. I know because the person who ran the course, I ended up working for them. They said, I was in the third cohort. I think they've done like 300 now. It was back, it's been so long. I was the only person who, like, I would come out onto the mat at the dojo and we would use resistance bands, and I would track the color band, how many sets I did. I was writing down everything. I was the only person who used that daggone book.
Yes.
Right? And at that point, I was the person who got the best results.
It works.
It works.
One of my friends, speaking about kickboxing, one of my best friends, Jason Scott Johnson, he journaled all the time. He journaled his trainings, everything, even what he ate, how he felt, his workouts, his training, and it enabled him to go to Bangkok, Thailand, and win a world super heavyweight Muay Thai championship. Then he later went into K1, became a top-ranked K1 fighter. He still journals to this day, and he just came back from filming in Thailand, shot a movie there. I'm going to introduce it to you one of these days.
I look forward to it.
So I'm glad that you had the committed to paper, actually, and the third one. Third one goes do the thing and have the power. Right? Do the thing and have the power. Good.
So then you have to act on what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
It is possibly, success really is that simple. Simple, because something simple doesn't mean it's easy. Then it's action, right? So I made the decision. I'd committed to the paper. I knew I was going to be working out 6 days a week. I knew that I needed to eat 6 times a day. At that point, that was the program. I was going to follow their nutritional. I'm going to eat 6 times a day. I'm going to eat 6 servings of protein and, believe it or not, 6 carbs and at least 2 vegetables, as much vegetables as I want in those 2 sittings. I wrote down what I ate. Matter of fact, I would do food prep before food prep was big back in 03. Only people did food prep. If you know this because you've been around nutrition and fitness. Okay, so bodybuilders have always done food prep, but this whole notion of food prep really is like 2010. Like, serious athletes have always done food prep.
Yes.
Right? So I'm looking at this program. I'm like, okay, so if I have to eat 6 times a day, it's just going to be easier to eat the same thing. So you just figure out what you're going to eat and you do your portions. Then it was the actions, right? So actually doing what I had wrote down and then going back and checking it off.
Yes.
Every day.
And yeah, that's well stated. Yeah, I think a lot of people miss out on that point. And even a lot of people regarding the law of attraction, they miss out on, in a sense, all 3 of those because they really not totally committed to a decision and putting it on paper and taking action. I think because like with law of attraction, the last couple of syllables is action.
Yeah, you can't attract. Act is right in the middle of that, right?
Yes.
Action. And that is so missed out on. Bob, every morning I have a number of books I read just that are inspirational. One of them that is new to the repertoire you've seen because you follow me on social media and you like the post. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And I know you probably have this book too. It's The Daily Stoic by Ryan.
Yes, Ryan Holiday. I have all of his book. Great young guy.
Yeah, but even in Stoicism, I'm like, those guys, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, they're talking about the law of attraction. They talk about your dominant thought is what you're going to see, right? It's not this woo-woo thing. There are laws of the universe like gravity, like buoyancy, like the laws of aerodynamics that we can manipulate when we work with them. We can use.
And because having go to law school, if you understand a law, you can work within a law to your best outcome.
Absolutely. That's the thing. One of my favorite classes in law school was actually federal income taxation. Because a lot of people, there is a difference between being a tax fraud and utilizing the tax code. Mm-hmm. The tax code is there, and anyone can utilize it if you understand it.
Yes.
You're cheap. It'll make you a fraud. Now, I'm not saying people don't do that. The everyday person, I'm sure, could get more money back if they just understood the tax code and utilize it. So like anything, a lot of things have negative connotations. It's just there. There's a lot of things. Most things in this world are just neutral and depend on how we use them.
Yes.
It's plastic. It's just like in Think and Grow Rich talks about the ether, the formless that we turn into form. It's just there for anyone to use. You just have to know how to use it and work with it.
Absolutely. I love the final 3 tips. I love your story of transformation. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from that. A lot of people are going through struggles, especially with addictions and other things in our life. Yet there's always a way. There is a way.
Oh, Always.
And initially, you talked about the self-awareness and everything, finalizing by the tips, the final 3 tips, the step-by-step process that help you to get through your greatest transformation, and one that is make a decision. And like you said, and I like the way you said it, because it kills off all other options. It's not just a choice, it's an absolute decision. Number 2, commit that decision to paper. Because when you write it down, especially when you're writing it down, there's a subconscious thing. Yeah. It goes in there when you write it down, and it's there. Yep. And it's there. And finally, do the thing. Get out there and take action and continue to take that action. That's the only way you're going to be able to grow, is to get the feedback from the action. That's where the power's at. Marvin, it was great having you on this podcast. I want to thank you for being on it. If anybody wants to reach you, how would they get a hold of you?
They can reach me at my website, which is marvintowler.com.
marvintowler.com.
Definitely find me at marvintowler.com. They could find me on Twitter. I'm more active on Instagram right now. I'm at Marvin J. Towler, and also on Facebook. Facebook.com/Marvin John Towler is my Facebook page. Thank you. It's exciting to be a part of the School of Transformation. It's going to grow. I can't wait to come back on in 100 episodes.
Sure, yes.
Talk about my book and how this is the #1 rated podcast on iTunes.
Yeah, and I know that you're going to be having a program, a course that's going to be upcoming, and they can go to your website, Marvin Towler, to find out more, correct?
Yeah, correct. You know, I'm going to be launching a course. We touched on it, on how people can achieve more in life and have more that they can. The thing to do is, like you said, go to marvintowler.com, get on my mailing list. I send out wonderful stuff every week. And also they will have early insider access to the program.
Fantastic.
So it's going to be exciting.
That's fantastic. And I'm glad to know that. Again, it was a wonderful having you on the show, and you have a lot to offer, and you're going to have a lot more to offer in the coming months and years. People are going to be hearing all about Marvin J. Towler.
Well, thank you, sir. So, thank you for bringing forth this for the world. God bless you, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in for episode 4 of the School Transformation Podcast. And don't forget to go to the schooltransformation.com website and grab the ultimate 10-step self-confidence cheat sheet.
Thanks for listening to the School of Transformation Podcast. You can find us at bobchoat.com and make sure to grab the ultimate 10-step self-confidence cheat sheet.